Welcome to the first installment of the After Dark 3x3 review, where I dish out a bunch of bluntly honest, completely subjective, and undeserved punishment to these poor one-man army development teams that probably have no idea who I am or why I should be talking trash about their projects, and instead of focusing on my terrible video editing skills.
Nobody asked for your opinion.
This week, we did the thing that a million other people are doing and played through a retail sales simulation game called HELLMART, a debut title coming out of Bulgaria by a small indie development studio, Gaze in Gains. Yeah, I said that right. I think it means like gazing into the darkness, like gazing into the void, or the abyss, or...
Ha! Gay!
I don't know, man. Now, I didn't bother to look up a lot about this studio outside of that, but the studio was founded by a former member of Clapperheads, and they're the studio that brought us Zoocosis, which sadly I haven't played, but I do know that this is a very similar work simulation blended with horror experience as well, so the two things share a kind of creative DNA, so to speak. Anyways, as it is for now, and as it will be from here on out, I'm going to give you 3 things I loved about it, 3 things I hated about it, and because it's an indie horror game, 3 times I nearly soiled myself while playing it. We're going to start off with the good. Atmosphere. Now, there's plenty of examples in recent indie games where the setting just seems really subpar and actually ends up being a hindrance to the overall experience more than lending it a much-needed hand to hold me in place during some of the more mundane and repetitive parts of the game, which these games tend to have a lot of. HELLMART was actually pretty good at sticking the landing here, and I for one love the snow-covered desolation of the surrounding environment. Sound design was awesome, and if you've ever been out in the snow in a very large or open rural area, the absence of sound is actually a sound. And they recreated that here perfectly, which is pretty cool. A big part of the plot is almost revealed in the opening scene, and honestly, if it wasn't for the snowbanks, the picturesque sunset on the horizon, and the overall polished but a little bit scuffed looking feeling, I think I would have figured out the ending in the first 5 minutes. But instead I remained delightfully distracted by the main character in this story. And for a game of this scope and at this price point, which I believe is somewhere around 13 or 14 US dollars right now, if you get it on a Steam sale, I don't expect a whole lot. So I will say that what the devs offered was not the greatest I've seen, but definitely fit my expectations pretty nicely. Which brings me straight to the next thing I loved about HELLMART, the graphics, combined with the gameplay. Now, normally graphics aren't really a high point or much of an expectation for me, at least when it comes to the indie space. I don't expect much. So therefore, I'm not peeping pixels here. So I was thoroughly impressed at not only the textures and lighting and attention to detail, but also how the graphics and sounds and everything interacted so smoothly and intuitively. I definitely just enjoyed the clickiness and responsiveness of every action. Working a checkout line at a retail store is an actual nightmare. And if you've ever done it for a living, it can make you feel like you want to violently throw yourself off the top of the tallest building. But somewhere here, they managed to make operating a register feel like a fluid little money farm side game, which once again, super important when it comes to the mundane and boring or repetitive tasks involved here. I'm saying that again because I need you to remember that for sure, because if it wasn't for these 2 things and some of the more comical elements of the game, I don't think this would even be worth a second look. And speaking of the offbeat and comic elements of the game, I will say that there were some interesting cameos that had me laughing hysterically to myself. I shared a couple of shorts already as some of the references that I thought were pretty cool, and also one cameo in particular that caught me completely off guard. I'm not going to talk about it here because you don't need me to spoil the surprise. Trust me, I will say that the devs had the everyday streamer in mind when they created this experience. And as a side note, it's kind of funny to see how the shift in the horror game genre has gone from just playing the games yourself on a dare to watching other people get scared out of their minds playing it. And I fully understand for one, because yeah, before I started recording and playing these games for YouTube, I did the same thing. I watched other people play them or ignored them entirely. What does this mean? So it's good to feel as though the devs took some time to recognize the creators in this space and make something that was intended to produce a genuine reaction and build momentum for both the viewer and the person playing. I think that is probably the coolest feature of this genre of game at this point in time, and why it's so popular right now to play these reactionary titles, because it creates a memorable experience for the viewer and the person playing, and it's not just something you see in a lot of other genres of game. Streaming an indie horror game is basically streaming on easy mode. And this game is just further evidence that the space is so big right now that the target audience was clear, which I don't mind at all. I'm very much here for that. Some of the things I'm very much not here for, though, is the hitching and the glitching. Now, I did scroll through the devlog on the store page and they said they fixed some technical bugs and glitches, but I'm playing this game on a PC that could digital razor blades without breaking a sweat. Like, I took these 2 weeks off to upgrade my rig, and it's a solid machine. So there's no reason that I should be experiencing any issues on my end when it comes to pushing out smooth frames here. Yet for a few instances in particular, when entering and exiting from inside to outside areas or vice versa, there was some noticeable hitching and lag going on. Look, I usually wouldn't say a thing about it. I've said it at least once so far. I understand the price point of the game, and I also get that this is a small studio. But if you're trying to convince me and other people that this game is worth playing through a second and a third time just to get a slightly different yet equally mediocre ending, then maybe these bugs need to be addressed, and soon. As of writing this, I played the game more than a few days after launch, and at least a day or two after the last bug fix update. I know it's not game breaking, but if my viewers are going to suffer through me restarting the game or fiddling around with the settings to work out technical glitches and errors that I assume are probably my fault initially, and then find out that it's actually not my fault, it's the game itself and the optimization of the game, then you already got me bowing out of that mess completely. And that's not the only thing messy here. Let's talk about the story a bit. It really didn't take me very long to realize what this game was going to be about. I know the title's HELLMART. Boy, oh boy, the indie horror streaming phenomenon is propping this game up on one leg. Barely. And if there's any one thing I'd like to see the devs brush up on, it's the ability to keep the mystery alive. Like, keep me guessing, for God's sake. Different variations of the monster, or even some slow exposure of the lore or connection between the mysterious hooded man and the creature that chases you through the stores at night. Not just leaving notes around for me to find. I think it's kind of lazy. I don't know. Who the hell's the guy that calls us on the phone every day? I shouldn't have to play through 3 times to feel like I've seen enough for this game to be a satisfying experience. This is not that kind of game. There's some scenes in this game that made no sense at all, and I felt like slogging through another day with only slight variations to the intensity of the nighttime segments or a random generator breaking down or whatever was just not enough to keep me from wanting to curl up on the floor next to my PC and fall into a deep slumber. At a certain point, I was almost begging this game to let me go. 3 hours long per playthrough when it should have been 3 one-hour playthroughs. I would have loved to see myself make enough money during these daytime scenes to actually buy things to upgrade the store, and I'm talking on my first playthrough. I'm not trying to play it again to see if I can order a shotgun and see what it does to the invincible monster that you can't hide from, you know? There just wasn't enough value to the first playthrough to do it all over again. I'd have gladly paid the same amount of money if HELLMART was a bit more fleshed out and a bit shorter, like if everything was condensed, but instead, HELLMART felt like a nicely polished $5 turd for this reason alone, rather than a game that could sit comfortably within a similar price point as games like Routine, or even a higher price point than other games of this genre that actually left me with a holy this game was jam full of stuff and I can't believe one person made this kind of feeling. Look, I do understand the hustle, but let's be real here. This game is probably already dead after this review, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be on to the next one for a lot of folks. I can't imagine that Gaze Games continuing to stretch it out even longer, as they indicated in a recent dev blog, would make this game much better, or make me not feel as though I'm trapped inside a game about me being stuck playing a game about being stuck at a register for eternity, babysitting doppelgangers and monsters. Well, that's about all I have to say about HELLMART. And at the end of the day, I'm pretty positive that this game can be worked on and fixed to a degree. And I'd love for that to happen. I really would. And I feel like if you got $10 to blow on a maybe, then who am I to tell you any different? But if I could do it all over again, I'd buy a fancy bottle of water with my $15 and then I'd just watch somebody else play it. Oh, here's a couple clips of the edgier moments in the game. I wish there was more jump scares to show without completely ruining it, but yeah, I pretty much already have. Have an awesome week. I'll be back with another After Dark review next week. Hopefully that's not a hard pass too. I think I'm playing a game with a much better rating this time. Yeah. Anyway, thanks again. Bye. We got a high dude. What does this mean? Bring more from storage. Good God, dude. I didn't see it. This item's supposed to be discounted. I have a coupon. Apply the discount immediately. Wonderfully amazing. Did everyone hear that? I show them a coupon and they tell me no discount. What service? Get lost. Incredible, you're not even trying to check. Fine, expect a complaint and I will demand to speak to your manager. All right. Come on, dude. Oh, we did it? We fought him off?